My wife announced she was spending the night with her trainer to explore different experiences. She thought I'd just take it like a broken man. But she forgot. I design escape rooms where people think they're in control until they realize they're trapped. She just walked into the most elaborate game of her life. My name is Leland Thorne. I'm 45 years old, and I own a chain of escape rooms across 3 states. Started with one location in downtown Portland 8 years ago, and now I've got 12 facilities bringing in serious money. The irony wasn't lost on me later. I spent my days creating puzzles and psychological challenges for people to solve, but I completely missed the game being played right under my nose. Cora and I have been married for 16 years. Met her when she was modeling for a local fashion magazine, back when I was just getting my first escape room off the ground. She was stunning then, tall, blonde, with these piercing blue eyes that could stop traffic. Still beautiful now, but something had changed over the past year. Something I couldn't quite put my finger on. She'd started going to the gym more often, spending hours getting ready for simple errands, and constantly checking her phone. When I'd ask about it, she'd give me this smile that used to melt my heart, but now felt calculated. Cold, even. Just trying to better myself. Honey, she'd say, running her manicured fingers through my hair. A woman needs to maintain herself, you know. I believed her. Why wouldn't I? After 16 years, you develop a certain trust. You assume your partner wants the same things you do. A stable home, financial security, maybe kids someday. We talked about children, but Cora always said she wasn't ready yet. Always next year, always after she figured herself out. The business was thriving. My flagship location in Portland had a 6-week waiting list, and I was scouting locations in Seattle and San Francisco. Cora seemed proud of our success, always bragging to her friends about our new house in the hills, the European vacations, the designer clothes I bought her. But success changes people sometimes. Or maybe it just reveals who they really were all along. 3 weeks ago, I noticed she'd started working out with a personal trainer. Some guy named Marcus who looked like he'd stepped off a fitness magazine cover. When I met him briefly at the gym, he had this cocky smirk that rubbed me the wrong way. Too friendly with my wife. Too comfortable touching her arm when he explained exercises. He's just professional. Cora had laughed when I mentioned it. Don't be so paranoid, Leland. It's not attractive. Maybe I should have trusted my instincts then. Maybe I should have dug deeper, asked harder questions. But I was busy with expansion plans and new facility designs. I had escape rooms to build, puzzles to create, businesses to run. Funny how life works. I spent my career designing scenarios where people had to solve mysteries, find hidden clues, and escape before time ran out. I just never imagined I'd find myself trapped in the biggest puzzle of my life. And the clock was already ticking. The morning that changed everything started like any other Tuesday. I was in the kitchen brewing coffee, checking emails on my phone about the new Seattle location. Cora wandered in wearing a silk robe, her hair perfectly styled even though it was barely 7 a.m. She'd been getting up earlier lately, spending more time on her appearance. "Morning, babe," I said, not looking up from my phone. "Coffee's fresh." She poured herself a cup and sat across from me at our granite breakfast bar. Something in her posture made me glance up. She was sitting straighter than usual, like she was preparing for a presentation. "Leland, I need to talk to you about something," Cora began, her voice steady but different. Clinical, almost. I set my phone down and gave her my full attention. "What's on your mind?" She took a sip of coffee, maintaining eye contact. "I've been doing a lot of thinking about my life, about us, about what I want." She paused, and I saw something in her expression I'd never seen before. Complete confidence, like she held all the cards in a game I didn't even know we were playing. "I've decided I deserve to try different things," she continued, her voice gaining strength. "I'm not going to be home tonight. Maybe not tomorrow either." The words hit me like ice water. "Excuse me." Cora's lips curved into a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "You heard me correctly. I'm exploring my options, Leland. I never got to experience other men before we married. I was too young, too naive. But I'm older now, and I know what I want." I felt my jaw tighten. "And what exactly do you want, Cora?" She leaned forward, her voice dropping to almost a whisper. "I want to know what I've been missing. Marcus has shown me there's a whole world of experiences out there." She actually winked at me then, like we were sharing some inside joke. "Don't worry, though. I'll share all the details when I get back. Maybe it'll spice things up between us." The casual cruelty of it knocked the breath out of me. 16 years of marriage, and she was talking about cheating like it was a spa weekend. "You're telling me you're planning to sleep with your trainer," I said slowly, making sure I understood correctly. "I'm telling you I'm taking control of my life," she replied, standing up and adjusting her robe. "This isn't about you, Leland. It's about me finally living authentically." I watched her walk toward the stairs, moving with the confidence of someone who believed they'd just won a chess match. She had no idea that what happened next would completely shatter everything she thought she knew about the game we were playing. "Have a good day at work, honey," she called over her shoulder. "Don't wait up tonight." As I sat there in the sudden silence of our kitchen, one thought crystallized in my mind. Cora had just made the biggest mistake of her life, and I was about to show her exactly how wrong she'd been about who held the real power in this relationship. The moment Cora's car disappeared down our driveway, I walked straight to my home office and closed the door. 16 years in the escape room business had taught me one crucial skill: how to think 3 steps ahead of everyone else in the room. Right now, Cora thought she was playing checkers. She had no idea I was about to start a game of chess. I opened my laptop and pulled up the contact list for my business attorney, David Walsh. We'd worked together since my first escape room opened, and he'd handled everything from liability waivers to franchise agreements. More importantly, he understood the entertainment value of a well-executed plan. "David, it's Leland," I said when he answered. "I need you to review something urgently." "What's going on?" he asked, his voice sharpening. David had handled enough messy situations to recognize the tone of my voice. "My wife just informed me she's planning to have an affair. I need to know exactly where I stand legally and financially." There was a pause. "Jesus, Leland, I'm sorry to hear that. How much evidence do you have?" She confessed this morning, bold as brass, told me she deserves to explore other men and that she'll share the details when she gets back. I could hear David typing in the background. "Did you record this conversation?" he asked. "No, but I don't think I'll need to." Cora's not exactly being subtle about this. I pulled up our joint bank account on my computer screen. "David, walk me through the asset protection we built into our financial structure." For the next hour, David reminded me of several very important facts. The house was in my name only, purchased before our marriage with money from my first escape room success. The business accounts were separate entities, protected by the corporate structure we'd established. Most importantly, the prenuptial agreement Cora had signed contained a very specific clause about infidelity. "She gets the car and whatever's in her personal checking account," David explained. "Everything else stays with you. The house, the business, the investments, all protected." "And the joint account?" I asked, watching the balance on my screen. "Technically joint, but since you contributed 95% of the funds, you have legal grounds to freeze it pending the divorce proceedings." I smiled for the first time that day. "Do it." While David worked his magic with the banks, I made my second call. My business partner, Jake Morrison, had been with me since the beginning. More importantly, he'd introduced me to some very talented people in the entertainment industry over the years. "Jake, I need a favor," I said when he picked up. "Remember that actress you dated last year? The one who could cry on command?" "Iris." "Yeah, why?" "I need to hire her for a very special performance." By 6 p.m., I had everything in motion. David had frozen our joint accounts and begun drafting divorce papers. Jake had connected me with Iris Caldwell, a struggling actress who was very interested in earning $5,000 for what I described as a unique acting opportunity. I met Iris at a coffee shop in downtown Portland. She was exactly what I needed, beautiful in that effortless way that would make any woman insecure, but professional enough to handle what I had in mind. "So let me understand this correctly," Iris said, stirring her latte. "You want me to pretend to be your new girlfriend for social media purposes?" "That's part of it," I confirmed. "My wife is currently cheating on me. She thinks she's being clever, exploring her options while keeping me as her safety net. I want to show her that I have options too." Iris raised an eyebrow. "This sounds like it could get complicated." "It won't be. I just need someone to help me create the impression that I'm moving on with my life. A few strategic photos, maybe a dinner or two in public places where we might be seen. Nothing inappropriate, just enough to plant some seeds." She leaned back in her chair, studying me. "And you're willing to pay $5,000 for this? Plus expenses. Good meals. Nice clothes if you need them for the photos." Think of it as a short-term consulting gig. Iris smiled. I've had worse auditions. When do we start? Tonight. I want to post our first photo before my wife gets home tomorrow. We drove to one of Portland's most upscale restaurants, the kind of place where Cora and I used to celebrate anniversaries. I'd made reservations using my full name, knowing the maitre d' would remember me and likely mention it to other regular customers. Iris was a natural. She knew exactly how to position herself for photos, close enough to suggest intimacy, but not so close that it looked staged. Her laugh was genuine, her smile radiant. Through the camera lens, we looked like a couple in the early, exciting stages of romance. You're very good at this, I told her as we shared dessert. I've been acting since I was 12, she replied. The key is believing the story you're telling, even if it's not real. I posted 3 photos to Instagram that night, each one carefully crafted to tell a story. The first showed us at dinner, Iris laughing at something I'd said. The second was a candid shot of her looking beautiful in the restaurant's ambient lighting. The third was both of us raising glasses in a toast, her hand resting lightly on my arm. The captions were simple but effective. Sometimes life surprises you with exactly what you need. Great company makes everything better. Here's to new beginnings. By the time I went to bed, the post had dozens of likes and several comments from mutual friends asking who my lovely companion was. The seeds were planted. Now I just had to wait for them to grow. Cora strolled through our front door Friday evening like she owned the world. Her hair was disheveled, her makeup smudged, and she carried herself with the satisfied smugness of someone who thought they'd just pulled off the perfect crime. She dropped her overnight bag by the entrance and stretched dramatically. Honey, I'm home, she called out, her voice dripping with false sweetness. I was in the living room, reading a book and sipping wine, the picture of calm domesticity. I'd spent the day at my flagship escape room, working on puzzle designs and pretending everything was normal. My employees had no idea their boss was orchestrating the most complex game of his career. Welcome back, I said without looking up from my book. How was your spiritual journey? Cora laughed, that new sound I'd never heard before our marriage started falling apart. Enlightening. Very enlightening. She walked over and perched on the arm of my chair, running her fingers through my hair. Marcus taught me so much about myself, about what I've been missing. I closed my book and looked at her. Is that so? She hummed, leaning closer. I feel like a completely new woman. More confident, more alive. I think this is going to be really good for our marriage, Leland. I can bring this new energy back to us. The audacity was breathtaking. She actually believed her betrayal was a gift to our relationship. That's interesting, I said, standing up and walking to the kitchen. By the way, I had dinner last night at Romano's. You remember that place, right? Where we had our 5th anniversary. Cora followed me, her expression shifting slightly. Oh, that's nice. Did you go alone? Actually, no. I met someone. I poured myself another glass of wine, taking my time. Her name's Iris. Lovely woman. We had a wonderful time. I could see the wheels turning in Cora's head. She was trying to process whether I was serious or just trying to make her jealous. That's nice, honey, she said carefully. It's good that you're getting out and socializing. I pulled out my phone and showed her the Instagram photos from my dinner with Iris. Cora's face went through a fascinating series of expressions: confusion, disbelief, and then something that might have been panic. Who is this woman? She asked, her voice tighter than before. Someone who appreciates good company, I replied. We're having dinner again tomorrow night. She's quite remarkable, intelligent, successful, beautiful. The kind of woman who knows what she wants. Cora stared at the photos, her confident facade beginning to show small breaks. You're dating? I'm exploring my options, I said, using her exact words from Tuesday morning. After our conversation earlier this week, I realized you were right. Why should either of us limit ourselves to just one person? But that's different, Cora stammered. I was talking about personal growth, about getting what you deserve. I interrupted. About not being tied down by conventional expectations. I completely agree. In fact, Iris and I were discussing how refreshing it is to meet someone who isn't bound by outdated ideas about commitment. I watched as the reality of the situation started to dawn on her. She'd expected me to wait at home like a faithful dog while she played with her trainer. The possibility that I might have my own life, my own choices, had never entered her calculations. Saturday morning, Cora was unusually quiet. She kept glancing at me over breakfast, her previous confidence replaced by something I'd never seen before: uncertainty. She picked at her toast while I read the newspaper, the silence stretching between us like a loaded spring. "So," she finally said, her voice artificially casual, "tell me more about this Iris person." I looked up from the business section. "What would you like to know? How did you meet her? What does she do?" The questions came out in a rush, revealing more anxiety than she probably intended. "She's an actress. Very talented. We met through Jake at the office." I folded the newspaper deliberately. "She's between projects right now, so she has plenty of time to spend together." Cora's grip tightened on her coffee mug. "An actress? How old is she?" 28. Young enough to still believe in possibilities, old enough to know what she wants. I smiled. "She reminds me of you when we first met, actually, before you got comfortable." That hit home. Cora's face flushed, and I could see her mind racing through implications she didn't like. "Leland, I think there's been a misunderstanding," she said, leaning forward. "When I talked about exploring, I didn't mean we should both." "Both what?" "Both live authentically. Both refuse to be constrained by society's expectations." I used her exact phrases from Thursday morning. "I thought you'd be proud of me for embracing the same philosophy you've discovered." "That's not what I meant, and you know it," she snapped, her mask slipping further. "Then perhaps you should have been clearer about the rules of this new game," I replied calmly. "Because from where I sit, it looks like you wanted to have your cake and eat it too. Keep me as your safety net while you played with your trainer." Cora's hands were shaking now. "It's not the same thing. What Marcus and I have is spiritual. It's about growth. And what Iris and I have is about mutual respect and genuine attraction." I interrupted. "She doesn't take me for granted. She doesn't assume I'll just sit here waiting while she explores her options." I stood up, checking my watch. "Speaking of which, I should get ready. Iris and I are going hiking today, then dinner again tonight. She loves the outdoors, so refreshing to be with someone who's actively engaged with life." As I walked toward the stairs, I heard Cora call after me. "Leland, wait. Can we talk about this?" I paused on the bottom step. "What's to talk about?" "You wanted freedom to explore. I'm simply exercising the same freedom. Isn't this exactly what you wanted?" The look on her face told me everything I needed to know. She'd never considered that her actions might have consequences, that opening our marriage might benefit me more than her. The game she thought she was controlling was spinning rapidly out of her hands, and for the first time since Tuesday morning, I saw real fear in her eyes. "Enjoy your day," I said, heading upstairs. I certainly planned to enjoy mine. Monday morning brought the next phase of my plan into sharp focus. While Cora slept in, she'd been tossing and turning all night, clearly disturbed by thoughts of Iris. I made my way to David's law office for what he called an urgent financial review. "The accounts are frozen as of this morning," David reported, sliding a stack of documents across his mahogany desk. "Her personal credit cards linked to your accounts have been suspended, and I've filed the preliminary divorce papers citing irreconcilable differences." I reviewed the paperwork with satisfaction. Every detail was exactly as we'd planned. "What about the house?" "Completely protected. Since you purchased it before the marriage with business income and kept it in your name only, she has no claim. The prenup is ironclad." David leaned back in his chair. "She's going to get a very unpleasant surprise when she tries to access any funds today." My phone buzzed with the first text from Cora. My card was declined at the coffee shop. "Is there a problem with the account?" I showed David the message. "Right on schedule." "Leland," David said, his expression growing serious, "I have to ask, are you sure about this approach? Once we serve her with papers, there's no going back. She made her choice when she decided to humiliate me." I replied, "I'm simply ensuring she understands the consequences of her actions." I drove to my flagship escape room, where Jake was waiting with updates on our Iris situation. She'd agreed to continue the charade for another week, and Jake had scheduled several more public appearances designed to maximize Cora's discomfort. "The hiking photos you posted yesterday got serious attention," Jake reported. 43 likes and a bunch of comments asking about your new love. Your mutual friends are definitely talking." My phone buzzed again. This time it was a call from Cora. "Leland, What's going on? She demanded the moment I answered. None of my cards are working, and the bank says the account is frozen. That's strange, I said calmly. Have you done anything recently that might trigger security protocols? What do you mean? Her voice was rising with panic. Oh, I don't know. Maybe opening yourself up to fraud by sharing personal information with new acquaintances? Banks are very sensitive about that sort of thing these days. There was silence on the other end as she processed the implications. Leland, this isn't funny. I need access to money. I have appointments today, things to pay for. I'm sure you do, I interrupted. Perhaps you should ask Marcus to help with your expenses. After all, he's been so generous with his time lately. You can't do this, she said, her voice breaking slightly. Actually, I can. And I have. You might want to check your email when you get home. I hung up before she could respond. Jake looked impressed. Divorce papers? He asked. Being served as we speak. I confirmed. The game is officially over. Cora was waiting for me when I got home that evening, and the confident woman who'd left for her affair last week was nowhere to be seen. She sat at our kitchen table with the divorce papers spread in front of her, her face pale and her hands shaking. Irreconcilable differences? She said without looking up. That's what you're calling this? I poured myself a glass of wine and sat across from her. What would you call it? I would call it a massive overreaction to a minor mistake. She snapped, finally meeting my eyes. People work through these things, Leland. They go to counseling. They find ways to forgive. Forgive. I interrupted. You think I should forgive you for openly planning to cheat on me? For telling me to my face that you deserve to explore other men? I was confused, she protested. I was having some kind of midlife crisis or something. But this, she gestured at the papers, this is cruel and vindictive. I sipped my wine, studying her carefully. You know what's truly remarkable about this conversation? You're more upset about losing access to my money than you are about losing me. That's not true, she said, but the denial came too quickly. Isn't it? You haven't apologized once. You haven't expressed any regret for the pain you caused. You're just angry that there are consequences for your choices. Cora's facade finally broke completely. Fine. Yes, I'm angry about the money. Do you know what it's like to have your card declined buying a $5 coffee? To have the bank tell you that your own account is frozen. It's not your account, I corrected quietly. It never was. You contributed nothing to it. I contributed 16 years of my life, she screamed, standing up so violently that her chair fell backward. And I contributed 16 years of mine, plus every dollar that paid for this house, your clothes, your car, and your lifestyle. I replied calmly. The difference is, I honored our marriage vows. You decided they were optional. She stared at me for a long moment, tears streaming down her face. What about counseling? What about trying to work this out? What about it? You already worked it out with Marcus. You made your choice. That's over, she said desperately. I ended it. I told him I made a mistake. I raised an eyebrow. Really? When? This morning. When the money. She couldn't finish the sentence. So you ended your affair because I cut off your funding, not because you realized you were wrong. I shook my head. That tells me everything I need to know about your priorities. Cora collapsed back into her chair, the fight going out of her. Please, Leland, don't do this. We can fix this. I finished my wine and stood up. No, we can't. Because you don't want to fix our marriage. You want to fix your financial situation. As I walked toward the stairs, she called after me one last time. Where am I supposed to go? I paused without turning around. I suggest you ask Marcus. I'm sure he'll be happy to help you explore your options. 3 months later, I was reviewing expansion plans for my escape room business when Jake walked into my office with a grin that could only mean one thing. He had gossip worth sharing. You're not going to believe this, he said, dropping into the chair across from my desk. I just ran into Marcus at the gym. Turns out your ex-wife's spiritual journey hit some serious turbulence. I looked up from my architectural plans. I'm listening. Apparently, Cora moved in with him right after you kicked her out. Lasted exactly 2 weeks before he got tired of her financial demands and constant drama. Jake leaned forward, clearly enjoying the story. She's been bouncing between friends' couches ever since, and most of them are getting pretty sick of her sob story. I felt a satisfaction that was both deep and completely justified. And Marcus already moved on to his next client. Some young real estate agent who actually pays for her training sessions. Jake shook his head. Turns out the spiritual connection wasn't quite as meaningful as Cora thought. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Leland, this is Cora. I know you probably don't want to hear from me, but I really need to talk. Please. I showed Jake the message. She's been trying to contact me through various numbers for weeks. Different phones, email accounts, even tried reaching out through mutual friends. What does she want? The same thing she's always wanted, financial security. Apparently, the job market isn't very friendly to 41-year-old former models with no work experience. I deleted the message without responding. I heard from David that she's working part-time at a department store makeup counter. Jake whistled. From designer, everything to retail wages. That's got to hurt. She made her choice. I replied, returning to my plans. I'm just living with the consequences of her decision. The truth was, I felt nothing for Cora anymore. Not anger, not satisfaction, not even pity. She'd become irrelevant to my life. A cautionary tale I occasionally shared with other men going through similar situations. Meanwhile, my business was thriving beyond my wildest expectations. The publicity from the divorce, carefully managed to paint me as the wrong party, had actually increased interest in my escape rooms. Apparently, people liked the idea of supporting a man who'd outsmarted his cheating wife. I'd ended the arrangement with Iris after 2 weeks, paying her the full amount plus a generous bonus. She'd been professional throughout and even landed a recurring role on a Netflix series partly because of the industry connections she'd made during our fake relationship. You know what the best part is? Jake said, interrupting my thoughts. You came out of this stronger than ever. New business opportunities, cleaner finances, and total freedom to build whatever life you want. He was right. The house felt peaceful now, filled with my own energy rather than the constant tension that had marked the final years of my marriage. I'd redecorated, removing all traces of Cora's influence and creating a space that reflected my own tastes and priorities. Any regrets? Jake asked. I considered the question seriously, only that I waited so long to act. I should have seen through her performance years ago. 6 months after the divorce was finalized, I stood in the main room of my newest escape room location in Seattle, watching the final installation of a puzzle mechanism I designed myself. The business had expanded faster than I'd ever imagined, with investors suddenly very interested in backing a man who'd proven he could solve the most complex problems. Mr. Thorne. My new assistant, Sarah, approached with a tablet full of scheduling requests. You have 3 more interviews for the Portland Evening Business Journal article, and the documentary crew wants to confirm tomorrow's filming schedule. The documentary was about successful entrepreneurs who'd overcome personal setbacks. My story, the man who turned his wife's betrayal into business inspiration, had struck a chord with audiences. The escape room industry was exploding, and I was being positioned as its most innovative voice. Also, Sarah continued, there's a woman at the front desk asking to speak with you. She says it's personal. I knew without asking who it was. Cora had been increasingly desperate in her attempts to contact me, especially after she'd apparently been evicted from her latest temporary housing situation. Tell her I'm not available, I said, and make sure security knows she's not welcome on the property. Through the window, I watched as Sarah delivered the message. Cora stood there for a moment, looking nothing like the confident woman who'd once declared her right to explore other options. Her clothes were off the rack, her hair needed professional attention, and everything about her posture screamed defeat. She looked up at the window where I stood, and for a brief moment our eyes met. I felt nothing. No anger, no pity, no regret. She'd become a stranger whose poor choices had led her exactly where she deserved to be. As she walked away, my phone rang. It was Rebecca Hamilton, a business contact who'd become valuable for networking. Leland, I have someone I'd like you to meet, she said. A brilliant marketing executive who's looking for investment opportunities in experiential entertainment. She's sharp, successful, and I think you two would have a lot to discuss. Business only? I asked. For now. But she's also single, accomplished, and has never been married. Sometimes the best relationships start with mutual respect and shared ambitions. I smiled, watching Cora disappear around the corner. Set up the meeting. 3 hours later, I was having coffee with Dr. Amanda Wells, a marketing PhD who'd built a consultancy that helped entertainment companies create immersive experiences. She was intelligent, accomplished, and completely focused on building something meaningful rather than taking something away. "Your escape room concept has incredible potential for expansion," she said, reviewing my business plans with the kind of analytical mind I found genuinely attractive. "Have you considered virtual reality integration or themed experiences tied to major entertainment franchises?" As we talked, I realized this was what a real partnership felt like. Two successful people building something together rather than one person parasitically feeding off the other's success. "I'd be interested in discussing this further," I said as our meeting concluded. "So would I," Amanda replied, her smile genuine and professional. "Both the business opportunity and the conversation. It's refreshing to meet someone who's built something significant from their own vision." Walking back to my car, I reflected on how completely my life had transformed. Cora's betrayal, which had seemed devastating at the time, had actually freed me to become the man I was always meant to be. Stronger, more focused, and completely in control of my own destiny. The puzzle she'd tried to create by cheating had been solved, and the solution was simple: remove the broken piece and build something better.